All right, folks, welcome back to another episode. I wanted to welcome my next guest, who was a rapper, a producer out of the West Coast who had his start during the Golden Age. He was critical to California in terms of the music that he wrote, who he produced for, and just being a storyteller for the West and sharing our experiences. He's also an amazing beatboxer. When you talk about trying to put together an all-star team of beatboxing greats, he's definitely on my list. Welcome to Southern California legend himself, Click the Super Latin. How are you doing today,
Thank
brother?
you, man. Thank you. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Hey, awesome, man. Before we go into just your amazing career and everything that you've done for music, I like to take it back and just understand the background. So I wanted to start with this question. Where were you born and raised, and where do you hang your hat now?
I was born in San Diego, but quickly moved to Lenox, California, which is a city between Inglewood and Hawthorne.
Okay.
And I grew up there until I was probably about maybe 10, 11.
All right.
Then we moved into Hawthorne, and that's where I spent the rest of my teenage years. And now I live in Norwalk, California.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So been
Yeah,
here
and
30 years.
I saw that you were. Are you ethnically Peruvian or are you Hispanic? I wasn't sure where
Yes,
exactly in
my
South
family's from
America
Peru.
you're from.
My mom and dad are both Peruvian.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw like even San Diego, even deeper down. Now I've got some ties to San Diego, but I saw reporting about
Mm.
Is it Chula Vista though? Exactly in San Diego,
Yep.
right?
Chula Vista.
Oh man, like right
Yep.
next to the border, man. Okay. Did you go to Southwestern, or that's where my friends went to school at, or were you too young?
Man, I think we left there before I even started school.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
nice,
I
man.
only I only have I only have a couple of memories from being in San Diego, and one was kissing some little girl under our trailer because we lived in a trailer park.
Oh man, hey, good times though, man. I love it, man. Just the childhood. Well,
Yeah.
well, hey, man. So, what was your first exposure to music? Just what were your parents playing, or what was your family playing when you were growing up? Do you recall?
You know what? It was mostly my dad, man, and my dad. He liked everything. Um, Him being Peruvian, of course, there's
Yeah.
Peruvian music that's just a given in any household. Um, my dad loved salsa, but he also loved funk and rock, anything that he could dance to. Because my dad was really like he was a dancer.
Nice.
Years later, when I was working at this company with him, we were working at Hughes Aircraft. They had a Christmas party, and I was probably maybe 18, 19 years old. And man, when the DJ played, he was just pulling out woman after woman to dance with them. Real young, somewhere like in their 20s, and he was easily in his 40s, 50s, and he was out dancing to everybody.
Man, that's
That's
awesome.
just him, man. He didn't care about the genre. If it felt good and it sounded good, at an early age, I remember him listening to country. So I had a wide range of music being thrown at me when I was growing up.
Yeah. At some point, you get introduced to rap music. Do you recall the first time that you heard a rap song, and what was it?
You know what? I can't remember the first joint I heard, but I remember my first glimpse of anything hip hop. I was in middle school, and I was in band, and they were gonna have the school was having like the showcase, and so I'm sitting there behind the curtains on the stage, and all of a sudden the lights went down, and the strobe light started going off, and then I heard it through the grapevine by Zap came on,
Oh,
and all of a sudden I heard people screaming, cheering, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And so I opened the curtain a little bit, and I peek out there, and there was this Crip. His name was Mister, and he was dancing, man, and it was amazing. That was my first glimpse of anything hip hop related. Um,
nice.
from music, oh man, I remember hearing the Fat Boys,
Yeah.
that whole era, but I can't recall the very first song.
Oh man. Yeah, it's a good time. You grew up during a good time for music.
Yeah, well,
So,
in that time though, man, I mean, what I loved about it, I think, or what made it popular was that it was different. Number one, to an
yep.
extent, but also there was no formula really. There wasn't like this is how you write a rap song. It's just
Yeah.
you just did it, and so to me, that era was like it was so what's the word? It was so pure. It was really
Yeah.
untouched. It was like, let me write, later on, of course, they're realizing how to break this down scientifically to create hits and make money off it. But back at the beginning, it was just raw and it was pure. And I think that's what drew me to it because
Okay.
it didn't sound like anything else. And even the artists, when you get into the 90s part of it, even the majority of artists on the radio, BDP didn't sound like Heavy D. Heavy D didn't sound like Light. You
Right.
had a different range of producers, so it wasn't like this one typical sound. Or if the main thing was the boom bap, as far as drums go, you had different musical samples that created a different, branch of it, a mood. Maybe this one was more R&B dancey. Maybe this was more street, more hard. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I love that era because it's like everybody was just experimenting and having fun with it. And then of course, once it got to become a multi-billion-dollar business,
Right.
everyone's trying to make money. So it all sounds the same now.
Yeah, I love that point about just rap being in its pure form, and there really wasn't a blueprint for it. They were still the pioneers, and eventually, we got to learn from it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point, man. And you, I mean, it wasn't rap first; it was beatboxing first, right? So, what
That I
or
that
was
I
it?
got involved with.
Yeah, what was the order? Because I mean, you
Yeah,
produced
I would
rapping.
say beatboxing. Well, actually, it was the
Okay,
dance part first. So I started breaking first.
nice.
I was watching the TV show called That's Incredible, and I believe the New York City Breakers were on there, and I saw them, breaking, and I was like, "What the hell?" And actually, I thought it was kind of stupid, but 3 months later, I'm practicing backspins in my front yard.
That's what's up.
And I was decent. I wasn't like groundbreaking, great at breaking, but I was cool.
Yeah,
And then one day, man, I hear the Fat Boys. Actually, no, I heard no, I did hear the Fat Boys. It was the Fat Boys that I heard first as far as
yeah,
beatboxing. So I would imitate them. But the thing is, Dougie was out before the Fat Boys. It's just Fat Boys were more commercially available
that's right.
to everybody. So I was imitating Buffy for a little while, and then I heard Dougie Fresh, and I was just like, oh man. And then
Yeah,
after him, I heard Ready Rock C, and that's when I was like, you could do that, like the double sounds and whatnot.
dude.
Man, and then I met a guy named Shasha who was in LA from New York. I'm not sure how we found each other, but he started beatboxing, I started beatboxing, and then at that time I had the click sounds really good. You know what I'm saying? Because I was imitating Dougie Fresh all the time. And he said, "Man, you have them clicks really good. I'm gonna call you Click Master." And nobody ever called me Click Master. It just
Yeah,
be Click from that point on.
yeah. And so, what exposure to rap and hip hop very easy as it got more commercial. But I mean, what about the neighborhood that you were growing in? Was anybody else doing it, or were you doing something in your neighborhood that people
As
hadn't
far as
seen it?
beatboxing,
Yeah, beatboxing. Yeah,
there wasn't many.
yeah.
There was definitely a few rolling around, and
Okay.
for the most part, I think in that time in that era, everybody was involved with pretty much every element.
Yeah.
So just because you were a great DJ didn't mean that you didn't graffiti or rap. It's just you
Good
were
point.
very good at DJing. You know what I'm saying? The culture at that time was present everywhere.
Yeah.
From the clothes. I mean, now we wear, we could wear whatever the thing is, but back then, you had like graffiti shirts because it was
Yeah.
cool. You know what I
That's
mean? So
true.
no matter what, you had some part of elements with you all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, but there was beatboxers that beatbox because they knew kind of how to do it, but they didn't have the love for it. So it
Yeah.
always sounded very cheesy to me. Like,
Yeah.
it does, even today it does. I have homies that sometimes I catch at shows and they don't know I'm there. And if they're
Okay.
they may bust a little beatbox and then they'll see me in the audience and they'll just kind of crack up like
Doing it
yeah,
in front of the king. Yeah.
yeah,
So, dude, I mean, you don't just pick up beatboxing and do it half-assed, man. I mean, how
yeah.
you must have put a lot of time into it. And what was the practicing like? And
Oh man.
what was that path like to become as good as you were?
You know what? I'm going to attribute the initial drive
Okay.
to my dad because
Oh.
I could have, man, I could swear I was probably driving him nuts because like anything, like anything, you're not good
Right.
at the start. You just kind of just do, and you kind of go with it. And
Yeah.
I remember one time we were coming back from this store called Zodi's, and I was in the backyard. I mean, in the back of the station wagon we had,
Yeah.
and I was imitating Buffy, and so Buffy had that, you know. So I was
Yeah.
practicing that. I was practicing. I kept trying to get it right because it's hard to go, but like, when I go, it sounds like a deep breath. But he
Yeah.
didn't. He had a different tone.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out how the hell you do that. And so, for like 5, 10 minutes, I'm back there practicing. And then my dad in Spanish, he goes, "Ya para, pareces enfermo," and that means you cut it out. You sound sick. But what he pretty much saying I sounded retarded. It sounds
Oh
super funny in
man.
Spanish, but yeah, but he never told me to quit. He just told me stop for a minute. You're driving me nuts,
Yeah.
and so I would keep practicing and practicing. Then, like I said, I heard Dougie, and then I heard the clicks, and I worked on getting the clicks down.
Man.
And then, when I heard Ready Rock C, man, he was the one that I think it made me go like really fall in love with the art of beatboxing.
Yeah.
Um, and I had, I had the fortune of really creating a name for myself because it started circulating. Because I was never really a popular kid, man. I was always nerdy. I wasn't popular. That's just what it was, And so when I got into beatboxing and stuff, as good as I got, I became known. Became more
Heck
popular.
yeah.
But I mean, I definitely practiced, and also I always found stuff either by mistake or I could hear somebody do something, and at the attempt of doing something new and different or whatever,
Yeah.
and I would able to go, okay, you ain't got that too good, and they would never finish like trying to get better at it. They just kind of found it, and then it's kind of too hard to do. I'm like, I'm gonna stop doing that. I'll just stay with this part. So I
Yeah.
was always able to hear somebody and go like, oh, or I'd be in the shower and make a mistake while I'm practicing, and something would slip out on accident. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but I loved it, man. It's like even now, even though I'm not active,
Yeah.
I find myself beatboxing over like soft jazz in the truck.
Amazing.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean you've achieved Jedi Master status on beatboxing, and that's a great point. I want to peel back on that. You
Mhm.
mentioned that you became known for it, and how did those opportunities pop up? You rapping on BET Live, you doing some of that stuff for movies like Malibu's Most Wanted, 8 Mile. How did those opportunities come about?
Well, like with anybody who has, let's say a business, a service, right? And let's say that you make flyers, and then somebody asks you, "Hey, man, you know somebody makes flyers?" And you're like, "Yeah, no, this dude is badass. He's, and
Ah,
that word of mouth, man,
yeah.
so much. I mean, I would get seen at shows, and I give Big Boy, who's the main guy at Power 106.
Yep.
Well, he ain't there now. He's at 923 Beat, but he gave me a big push, man, because when I first put out my first single, he liked it so much, and he had a show called Rap Attack. And so when I first got on Rap Attack, I lost like the second round kind of a thing. And then I had a show, and I met him at the show, and I introduced myself, and he was like, "Yo, that song you got, man, it's fire. I'm gonna get it back on. Just
Oh
give me like
man.
a month." And so after a month, he put it back on, and I started winning. Man, I think I won like 6 weeks in a row. And then they ended up test adding it on the station to see if it was like a hit, maybe a local hit or whatever. But he knew I could beatbox, so he would pull me on stage in front of a lot of people at one shot, man. So
Sick.
that helped me out. And then of course, like when I was on the BET thing, I remember that I think he was either co-hosting it or just there.
Okay.
And somebody had said he had asked them about a beatboxer. Did they find a beatboxer? And they said, yeah, we found a beatboxer. And he was like, was it Click? I go, yeah, it's Click. And it just being able to do the things that I did. And I would say I'm a pretty decent entertainer, man. So there's ways that I would flip certain things, and that's what came about with Malibu's Most Wanted. And
Dang.
actually, with Malibu's Most Wanted at the time, I was doing a lot of events for Nike. Nike had this
Oh,
basketball event called Battlegrounds. And it was like it wasn't really celebrity basketball, but there were some celebrities that would come out. Of course, with Nike being who they
yeah,
are, it was packed. So there was a few times where I did events for Nike. And then
man.
at one particular event, John Sally, who's legendary in basketball,
Yeah.
he was hosting, and the thing was that because it's called Battlegrounds, I was going to battle this other co-host MC guy that was there, So
Okay.
I would rhyme, then he would rhyme, and then I would rhyme, and then he would rhyme, and then I was supposed to like end it with a beatbox.
Uh-huh.
But John Sally didn't know. So, I'm not the greatest rapper. So I'm doing my thing and he does his thing. But since they knew who he was, the crowd responded to him more. And so like I kind of like lose this battle. And I tell John Sally, I'll go, hey man, I'm supposed to beatbox, right? And he was like, okay, y'all, Click's gonna beatbox, and
Uh-huh.
I'm going like,
Dude.
what, in front of a lot of people. So I grabbed the mic and I started beatboxing. I went
Yeah.
over, they're cheering. And I'm pissed because when I got there, they had these Nike Battleground basketballs. They want to grab two, for my kids.
Yeah.
He told me I couldn't. So when I was leaving, man, I was so heated. I grabbed two basketballs and I'm just walking off and I'm complaining to my wife. And then some lady grabs me from the back of my shirt. And I turned around and she was like, "Excuse me, you were awesome. I got a friend that's making a movie and I would love for you to, to audition."
Whoa.
She gives me a card and it ended up being Malibu's Most Wanted.
Damn, that's wild.
Now, the crazy thing about that film is that it's a comedy. It's not supposed to really represent authentic hip hop.
Right,
You
right.
know, so the piece that I did, it just didn't fit in the storyline. It's like you can't
Yeah.
have it so for real,
And
but
then
you're
it's a
mocking it.
parody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's how that came about. When it's just word of mouth. I was everywhere, man. I definitely outworked a lot of people.
Yeah.
Uh, and I just when the door would close and they would say no, I would keep knocking on all the doors I could,
I love
and
it,
just getting
man.
in where I could fit in, man. And finally, it just paid off.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And so, just to hear from someone of your caliber, who are your top three greatest beatboxers of all time?
Oh man. Well, I'm not hip to any of the new ones because
Yep.
I'm not on the
Yeah.
scene like that. But like for me, and the beatboxers I know, and it's hard because everybody has their strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So I know that if I had to, I mean, Dougie is,
Yeah.
is just OG, right?
Yep. Yep.
But if you're looking at skill level, even though Dougie began it, way back, he went and capped off at a certain level. And not that he's not great, but like when I heard Ready Rock C, I'm like, yo, that's next level. That's And then of course you see Rozelle. Like
Yep.
Rozelle
Yep.
is a great entertainer, man. He's got great effects.
Yeah.
Um, Sonically, his beatboxing, certain things I like, certain things I don't like. Kenny Muhammad has got the most wickedest drums I've ever heard. He's not really a crazy effects person per se, and he does do some, but his drum sounds, man, if you didn't know, you would swear it was a drum machine because he just has this tone.
Damn, that's wild.
Scratch has the things he does, man. So it's just very smooth.
Yeah.
So I would say if I had to pick three, um, I would probably say Ready Roxy.
Okay.
Um, I would say Rozelle, and I would say Kenny Muhammad.
Okay.
I would say those would be the top three, but there's a list.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it just goes on and
And not
on.
just American beatboxers, because there's European ones too.
Yeah.
You know what I
Tom
mean?
Thumb.
And some of them
Oh,
is real nice.
yeah, that's a good point. With what you've accomplished, I mean, do you see yourself in the mix of those great beatboxers? How do you personally feel on terms of like what you've accomplished? I mean, I see you in that list for sure, but
Yeah,
it's
man,
always
my
tough to
son,
answer.
my
Yeah,
son be getting mad at me, man, because my son's complaint with me is that I don't, not that I don't brag, right?
yeah,
But I've always been, I guess, I feel like I feel like if I say it, I feel like I'm trying to prop myself up too much. Right?
sure.
I let
I
the,
feel
the
you.
people say it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um, but there's been occasions where, let's say, there's a hip hop event going on, and they have this beatboxer kind of headlining for the city per se, and I know, like, bro, like you can beatbox, but you don't do what I do, like and not that you're whack. It's just it's just like I get offended. I don't vocalize it because I hate feeling like I'm tooting my own horn. But
right.
I do know my level. You know what I mean? If I didn't have the level of the gift that I have, I wouldn't have been able to do these other things.
Yeah,
So in that sense, inside my head, I kind of go like, man, I know I could you know, but on the flip end of it, I don't, now Rozelle, I mean, he says it, when he talks about, the beatbox champion of the world.
Yeah.
But I've realized also, man, is that some people have that kind of persona. My
Right.
son, as a rapper,
Yeah.
bro, he can stand there and look you dead in the face and rhyme and interact with me. I can't look at somebody in the eyes while I'm performing.
Yeah.
It'll throw me off.
Okay.
But it's just rare. Some people can like nothing.
Yeah.
If they're saying, "Man, I was nervous as shit," you can't tell. Like man, your confidence level is so, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
No.
I just don't like going no. Well, top three, me, Raza.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that, man.
Well, you're certainly one of the greatest, man, and so
I
it's
appreciate that,
just
man. Thank
always,
you.
just always interesting to see how people approach that when they're asked to assess themselves. But I really enjoy all the videos that are up there, and I'm glad that we get to preserve history through
Yeah.
things like YouTube. But I did see a video uh, from 1986, the Hawthorne High School Star Search. Oh man, bro! In the 80s, you were that good already? That was crazy as
Man,
hell.
I was still trying to find me. You know what I mean? Because Click, of course, being called Click, I have to do clicks. It's just and everybody
Yeah.
knows that's Dougie.
Yep.
But I try to flip things and do things a little bit differently when I beatbox and the song choices I may use or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that video at the high school talent show thing, I wasn't even going to that school I was supposed to be, but I like my freshman year. I had gotten sick, and then I started ditching like crazy. So
Yeah.
they sent me off to another school up the
Okay.
street, a continuation school where all the kind of
Yeah.
bad kids kind of went. But I was still kind of sneaking to Hawthorne and hang out. And my boy Rob, who was the rapper in that video, uh,
Sick
we
too.
had we had recorded a little demo I think it was the Hawthorne Mall or the Del Alma Mall, but they used to have these little pop-ups, these little square buildings that you can go in there. It's like almost like record a you can record over tracks,
Yeah.
and kind of make your own little demo. It was just a gimmick thing. But we would go in there and we would beatbox and he would rap. And so those are the songs that we actually did at the talent show.
Nice.
It was fun, man. It's a fun experience. I'm glad I'm not sure who captured that video. Maybe somebody from the school or something, but I'm glad
Yeah.
that because it makes me look back and kind of chuckle and smirk and be like, this dude, who would have known,
Yeah. I see. As I was preparing for this interview, I was like, okay, 1986. I'm not expecting like top level Click the Super Latin beatboxing it. And I was like, God dang, the 86, you were super sick already. So I think it's just natural talent too. And it was good. The combo, you guys just both sound great. You and Rob together, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I beg to defer, man. I thought that blue Hawaiian shirt was fly, man. I think it's all right.
That's one of the things, man. There's two things whenever I see that video. It's that shirt. It's that shirt, my hair, and my mic technique. Because at that time, I didn't really have a mic technique. And so,
Okay.
as a beatboxer, let's say that this is the mic and this is the head of the mic.
Okay.
Right? As a beatboxer, there's a way to cup it to sound natural. But as soon as you do this, it's like a slight bit of like a cave sound, and it don't sound right. And so I watch myself in that video sometimes. I'm like, but then I didn't know. I'm learning.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't even know there was a technique to hold in the mic when you're beatboxing too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you gotta like
people don't know that they have tones that come out of the nose. So that that sound actually comes out of your nose. Unless you go, but ain't anybody doing that.
Yeah.
It comes out of the nose. So if you grab the mic and cup it, and you have your finger blocking your nose, that sound is not gonna come out loud at all. So if you ever watch me beatbox, I place the mic between my last two fingers because I cup it a certain way, and then I kind of aim the mic towards all this area right here. Any tricks that I got to do, it's all here, but that's the stuff you learn over the years, man.
You know, I'm gonna be trying it after this interview. I'm terrible at it, though, but man, it's just always something that you see it, you want to try it, and then just like you said, man, it's a puzzle, man. Just very perplexing on how you guys do that. So as you were doing this, were you also rapping a little bit? Were you also producing beats because you become a producer too as well.
Yeah, you know what? I definitely beatboxed before I rapped.
Hey,
I ended up being in a group back in my high school days,
yeah.
and it was me, my homeboy D Strong, and my homeboy Ray, who at the time was a New York Prince. And so I beatboxed for them,
Okay.
and then they met some guy whose father, made music too, had a little eight track recorder kind of a thing, but his dad did like other kind of music, Latin type stuff. Um, and so one day I went to his house and he showed me how to, make beats on this machine. And so that began the itch of making beats. So I went from beatboxing to making beats.
Okay.
And then when I left that group, I realized I couldn't do how do I entertain just beatboxing per se? At that time, I felt like I had to learn how to rhyme. So the first person or the first rapper that I looked at as far as like who I thought was good was my boy D Strong. So all of my first writings, it had his style, his cadence, but rhymes wise, words wise, even though he was dope, I wasn't that great. I was just all right. And then I started listening to Kumo D. And then Kumo D was more like the intelligent writer.
Yeah.
These big words and stuff. And so I listened a lot to Kumo D to get better. And then after that, I loved all the, most of the golden era rappers, the Big Daddy Kane's and stuff. But I really fell in love with KRS One
Nice.
because his range is just he can take you street and he could take you in some type of comedic type of rhyme that's not comedic in like a funny way, and I don't want to say gimmicky way either, but like when
Yeah.
he Jimmy, there was just a good funny way of describing a man's penis, and he made it fun. And then he can go and be historical, and then
Yeah.
so his range, man. One day,
Yeah.
me and my
It's
wife took a
impressive.
drive. We took a drive to Arizona, man, and after I watched the versus battle between KRS and Kane, I was telling my wife, who do you think that could compete with KRS? Because Kane, I love Kane, but
Yeah.
KRS's range and his like, his catalog is bananas.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my wife was like, "Oh no, maybe Jay Z." So I grab Jay Z's catalog and I start playing all the way to Arizona, and I just couldn't take too long of it because it's like the same thing. It's the hustler thing, and I
Yep.
don't know that world like that. So I could only listen to so much of it, and then we threw on KRS and just the range. Like you can
It's
be
nuts.
entertained in 20 different ways from 20 different songs.
Yeah. The
Um,
teacher.
but but my wife though, she grew up real hood, real street, and she actually had gotten in trouble for selling dope, when she was a kid, when she was a teenager. So she knows that whole hustler mentality. So she can listen to that.
She relates to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, it's good. Okay, we're on the 30th song, still hustling. He's still, So, but it all started with my boy D Strong as far as trying to learn how to really correctly write a rhyme.
Man, that's wild. And so, I mean, you produced for some amazing people too, right? So you produced remixes for the Mexicans,
Mm-hmm.
Delinquent Habits, and that's what I love about living in LA County because
Yeah,
there was so much talent in different pockets. It wasn't just LA, Norwalk,
yeah.
Hawthorne, just Cerritos. People were coming out of the woodwork, man, and I just love that network and history of Los Angeles hip hop in general. And how did you go about connecting with Delinquent Habits to make the Lower East Side remix? Were you guys friends, or was it
No,
opportunity to?
yeah,
How did
another
that happen?
opportunity. Because at that time I was signed to Wild West Records, which was the
Right.
same label that the Mexicans were on. And so with me and the Mexicans, it wasn't like we didn't get along. I feel like it was like a competitive thing because
Ah,
they were the Latin rappers, and
yeah,
here comes the second Latin rapper on that label.
yeah.
You know, and so the owner of the label, Morris, he ended up buying some studio gear
Okay.
and he put it in his building that he was leasing. And so he would have a little studio over there, and then he would have his office over there. And so I would go in there and I'd work on beats or whatever. I'd record and stuff.
Yeah.
And so one day he said, "Hey man, why don't you do a remix on Burning Hot?" And I go, "Oh, I'll try." And so I, did what I
Big.
did, and he put it out. And then somebody, I think I can't remember the guy who signed Delinquent Habits. can't remember his name, but on that label,
Yep.
they were looking for a remix for that Lower East Side joint. So I did like 3 different types of styles, and
Yeah.
they picked one and and used it. I had chances like what I would do too, man, is I would make beats and I would try to roll up to different labels, right?
Yeah.
I would go to like Reprise, and they had who was on Reprise, man. Um, it was an artist on Reprise. Anyway, I would go in there and I would have samples of my beats. Sometimes I would be using like a acapella off of that artist's vinyl that he had released,
Yep.
just to show you what it would sound like with my beats. Um, and so I would go up there, man, and just be playing beats for people, you
That's
know.
sick.
In the middle, actually, right before I got signed, I was producing for this kid named Extra Mile out of the Bay Area.
Okay.
He was just 18 at the time, man, and he ended up getting signed to a major label, man.
Oh wow.
The bad thing is that because we were all young at the time, that label didn't assign an A&R to us, so we were just making all the music ourselves. And until we turned it in, and they didn't even know who we were. The guy who signed him was no longer there,
Oh man.
and so we're just sitting there. And I thank God I got paid some money. But the he for me, I feel like he would have been a probably one of my biggest artists that and
Yeah.
right behind him, man,
If he was
he had a
developed
crew.
correctly. Yeah.
Oh, bro, it would have been amazing. But that's how my name got around. Just I was always in the middle of something. I had beats. I would beatbox. I so yeah. I just stood busy. You know.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Burning Hot remix that was on the Mexicans album. Holy cow, man. That was amazing too, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
I thought my version fit better than the original version, and that's not
woo,
dissing the original version.
no, right.
The original beat's nice. It's just
Dude.
I just felt like it didn't have like what I wanted to hear. I
Your
guess.
drums, man. I
So.
just I just like it, man. And so hey, that's a great point. I want to peel back on that point that you mentioned about you guys being competitive, right? So that was back in the 90s, and I get it, man. Competitive. Everybody, wants to bring their A game. How about now, like 20 years later? Do you keep in touch with those guys? Is it
Yeah,
do you guys
yeah.
look back and just talk about like, man, those were good times and y'all
And
did your
we've
thing
had
for
our
Latin
we've had our moments,
rappers?
man. We run with different crowds, but
Yep.
I Man had a birthday party, so I own a stage and sound business. So we
Okay.
set up stages and sound for different concerts and festivals and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he found out that I had the gear, so he booked me to provide a stage and sound for his birthday party a couple years ago.
That's
Um,
awesome.
we do catch each other here and there,
Yep.
but that particular day was really cool because Sinful was there.
Ah,
A lot of people that ran with the Mexicans were there. It was a really good show, man. A really good party, and we caught up. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But yeah, they're really working heavily in Mexico, man. They go back there a lot.
Yeah. No, I just love just I understand like, back in the day. So I just love like you come back, fast forward, and it's all love and just remember you
Yeah,
put it down and represented for California hip hop. It's so dope, man.
yeah, man.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, hey, and then I mentioned to you on the vinyl for Lower East Side, the track with Delinquent Habits, it had the click, but not spelled traditionally CLICK. Now,
Yeah,
did you do that like just one off or?
I didn't do that. They did that.
Oh,
I
they did.
think it was a label people because
Okay.
there's this thing like well, from what I understand, the gang thing, right? So you
Yeah.
never write CK because it's Crip Killer,
Ah,
and
got
so
it.
there's a. I remember there was a big thing about these tennis shoes back in the day. There were BKs, you
Yeah.
know, blood
Pretty
killers. So
nice,
it's like
right?
if you was a Crip, you wore those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that I'm assuming,
Yeah.
just based upon the people that I knew at that time too. It was like you don't put CK, that was never my world. So I
No,
just
right.
like, come on, man, really,
But
really,
but gang culture was super big in LA at the time. So
yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, man. Well, hey man, that's awesome stories about you seeing I Man and Sinful. Very awesome, man. And did you have your studio? Was it at home or did you rent some space when
No,
you
it was in my
created that?
garage. It was in my garage, man. Because the
Okay.
thing is, when we got our house. Actually, it's in the same house that I'm sitting in now. We converted the garage into a studio. So man, I would spend days in there, man. Like I really put a lot of hours into what I did, man. When I recorded the song for my people, I
Yeah.
remember I was up the whole day before, just pounding away on beats. And I thought I had the beat. And then, you know, the technique that I used to always use was I'm going to make a beat. So I don't care if I'm sitting there for an hour or 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop and I'm going to go eat something.
Yep.
Come back in about 15, 20 minutes, hit play. If it's hitting, then I know I'm on to something.
Oh, that's
if I hear it, I'm like, what the hell was I doing in here? You know, then I know, no,
scratch
and start over. And so that day, man, I had been working on beats all day and I thought I had a banger. And I wake up the next day and I go in the studio, hit play. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is horrible. And I scratched it and then I found a record. I took one sample and I had, you know, the existing samples I had, and then the song, the music for My People came out of that super quick. And
wow.
That I knew like, oh man, and it actually has the same method and style as the Burning High remix. If you listen to For My People and the way it's structured, it's almost the same template. Maybe not the same vibe per se, but the same template of how I produced back then.
I'll go back and have to check that out. This is a question that I got from John Doe to ask you was name some notable folks that you recorded at your house or music studio.
Notable names. I mean, they're notable to me. Not sure how many people out there would know everybody that I would mention, but definitely Jurassic 5.
Nice. Yep.
Jurassic 5. I did some stuff with Prince Whip-a-Whip. Whip-a-Whip was part of the Fantastic Five out of New York. Like they're like before, they're 70s, you know, 80s, like really, really before it blew up.
That's dope.
And then I had Fundubious, Son Doobie.
Oh, damn.
In the studio.
That's dope.
Who else?
You guys did you ever record Styles of Beyond at your place too, or no?
No. The Styles of Beyond thing, how that happened was I knew Takbir's older brother, Bilal. And Bilal, at the time when I met him, he was making beats. He was referred to me by a label person. So I went and met Bilal, and I was trying to get some beats from him. It just didn't quite work out, but he knew I beatboxed. And then when his brother, and when I first met him, man, Takbir wasn't even rapping. He was more of like a basketball jersey junkie. He just walked around wearing basketball jerseys and just a regular kid. And then once he got into rhyming, Bilal produced the album. And then when it was done, Bilal hit me up, hey man, we need a beatbox thing for this, like an intermission piece. And I was like, all right. So I beatboxed at my house and sent it to them. It made the album. I didn't even think twice about it. And then I want to say, you know, maybe a couple years later, somebody from LL Cool J's camp had sampled my beatboxing for one of the songs on Cool J's The GOAT album. And I believe it's a hidden track called Miss I. And I got a call from Style of Beyond's manager at that time.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what dude was on, man. But see, the thing is, I even though I recorded it, I didn't get paid for it, right? So all the beatboxing thing on Style of Beyond's album is I own the publishing. That's, you know, so Cool J's camp was about to release the record, and they had to backtrack and go, okay, man, if people find out we use this, let's just pay to use the samples.
Yeah.
So Style of Beyond's manager hit me up and was like, there's a deal in the works, and I'm not going to tell you who it is unless you guarantee we get half. And I was like, half? Like, man, I did that on the break, number one. I own everything. I said, I'll break you guys off a piece. You know, I'll give you something. But like, you just rolled up to me acting like threatening.
Yeah, you know?
Demanding. And so I said, bro, I'll give you a piece. You know, I just think it'll be half. Nah, you better be half, or you know, I ain't gonna let the deal go through. And I'm like, well, whatever, dude. And you know, and so like a day or two later, the guy at my label, Morris, who at the time was kind of helping to manage me.
Yep.
He goes, hey, dude, you know, I just found out that there's this song on Cool J's album. And so they play it, and I go, yeah, no, that's me. That's a Styles of Beyond's album.
Yeah.
I ended up getting paid a really good chunk of dough.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah. So that goes to show, you know, don't have an ego about stuff, man. Just sometimes you could be on a record that's a demo and it ends up being a classic. And then, you know, just don't. I feel like don't be an asshole. You know, this is how we do business, because man, I've made mistakes, not being an asshole, but like where I thought about the money too much.
Yeah.
Like the
got emotional.
Not emotional, but you know, it's like well, I mean, when you don't have money, or when you have a little bit of money and you're trying to make sure that you have next month's rent, you know, you're hoping that somebody books you for a show and
Okay.
doesn't ask you for a freebie. Uh,
Ah, gotcha.
when
Okay.
when I did the 8 Mile thing, I got paid decently, but I signed off the publishing. Like,
Ah,
because I didn't want to, like, I'm going, man, this is a movie. I could be, and so I'm like, okay, I'll sign off on it, whatever. I'll just as long as I get the work, it's still good pay.
yeah.
But if I would have not wrote off my publishing, like, I would have been getting paid bigger checks than what I'm getting for it now, because I still get
Man,
royalties for it. But
that's
it's just
crazy.
knowing how the game is, man. But when you're poor or when you're broke or low income,
Yeah.
like $200, $300, $400, that's still a,
It's still appealing. Yeah,
I
that's a good
mean,
point.
so
Yeah. Can you real quick just talk about Wild West Records? Because man, I mean, you guys put it down. When I think Raucous, when I think, all the major labels, man, Wild West was up there, man. You guys did your thing, man. And so can you just talk about the quick, do you know the start of Wild West Record?
no, I don't.
Eh,
I don't even know. I don't even know how I got in touch with Wild West.
Yeah, that too. So
Yeah, I cannot remember.
okay.
All I remember was, oh, you know what? No, I think I do remember roughly. I had a friend named Lauren Cheney. Rest in peace. He had passed away a few years ago. But so Lauren Cheney was my first producer, the guy
Okay.
who made beats for me. And so at this time, he would go to his house in Culver City, and there'd literally be a line like by his door
Oh
of
damn.
rappers looking for beats. And I loved his creativity, man. And at one point, he knew Morris, so from Wild West, and I think I got introduced to Morris through him.
Okay.
And then when I made my single, because I was already making demos at the time, when I
Okay.
made for my People single, Morris was actually trying to get me. Well, he was shopping me to different labels, uh,
Yeah.
and nobody would pick it up. And I think one of the last people he showed it to said, "Why don't he?" They told him, "Why don't you just do it?" He was like, "Okay," and he did.
So
Yeah. But I don't know how they started. Um, but I definitely know that Wild West definitely brought some people. The Nonce came out of there.
yeah, I mean
Um,
Chino XL had that that
yeah,
that track too as well.
yeah,
Like I know I got that on vinyl too, and man, that's great. And I
yeah.
know I got one for the super rapping stuff too. I don't know if that was Wild West too, but I remember
Who?
there's some super rapping. There was like this vinyl I remember you were on way back in the day. I don't know if you remember that one, but
I don't remember that one.
I'll, I'll have to pull it out. But hey, man, that's great, man. And eventually, you come out and you put out some own, your own music. You self-produce your debut album, '97. This is
Yeah.
how I know. And then Square One, which I know I'm familiar with, that you released in 2005. So I wanted to just touch on that one real quick. But you become obviously more polished as you progress through rapping. But what was the inspiration behind Square One? Like, what does that mean to you personally?
So Square One. So I'm still learning myself as a rapper. Before I was Click the Super Latin, I didn't know what I was gonna be called, right? But people, like I said, would always call me Click just because of the
Yeah,
beatbox and stuff. So in one of my rhymes on a demo, I had said, a super Latin bringing fake MCs to their knees, And then I went home and I was thinking, the super Latin, Click the Super Latin. That's kind I'm not sure if it sounds hard or dope. I go, but it had a ring to me.
yeah,
And so I had an experience where I was doing an interview and somebody asked me a political type question, and my answer was just, you could tell I wasn't into politics. So I kind of looked stupid
right.
after the interview, right?
Uh-huh.
And I walk away from the interview, and this other, yes, a friend of mine, he starts rapping at me, and he's like dissing me, in this rhyme. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't open your mouth. And he's just coming at me. So that night I went home, and I'm like, well, who am I, right? So if you listen to my albums, who I am is on the records. Like I love music, I love beatboxing, I love my family. You know,
Yeah,
so that's what, like, I could answer those questions all day. So the first album I made, when it started with the single, so the single got promoted on Power 106, and it was causing attention. And then the label tells me, hey, you need a second single. And so I'm sitting there going, man, what am I gonna? How do you follow it up? So then I wrote this song called Latin Girl. And it was because at that time, I didn't really hear too many songs that gave props to Latin women.
Sure.
And so the same thing I did for my people, which was just giving props to my people, I want to do for Latin women. So I did Latin Girl. I love the song to this day, but what I disliked about that whole situation was that I purposely went to make a single to try to get radio play. And when you do that, I feel like it's not pure anymore. Now it's tainted because your desire is to be back on the radio, and how can I formulate something that would get me there versus
Yeah.
making your art, right?
Oh, what you say? Yeah.
Yeah. So now during this growth period of the "This Is How I Know" album, I liked what I did, but I was still growing as an artist. I
Fair
hadn't
enough.
really got my bearings fully yet. So even though all those songs on that album I was okay with, and Latin Girl was the only one that every time I thought about that situation, it bothered me.
Ah.
So when I went to the Square One album, it's like going back to square one, which was creating my first album.
I
And
like
then,
that.
but I spelled one WON.
Yep.
And so it's like I won Square One with the Square One album.
Ah, that's so.
That was the purpose of that.
Yeah, a great point about you just talking about everything that you loved. It was filled with Friends, Jurassic 5,
Mhm.
Medusa, and
Yep.
then your family, right, was great. The family freestyle at the end was super fun. And then you got that track, Square One, where you featured Click 44. I assume that's Tech
That's
when he
tech.
was a kid. Dude, I
Yeah.
can't believe how good he was as a kid. That's
You know,
crazy.
you know what? With my son, and he's a beast, man, on the
I
mic.
know. Yeah.
But
Holy cow.
it started when he was about 2 years old. I was in my room practicing for a show, and in the middle of the rehearsal, he comes running into the room, and I'm still rhyming because I'm practicing for a show.
Yeah.
And he's hitting all of my rhyme words like a hype man would, right? And I realized, like, man, like you're damn near on, like, right on top of it. And I'm like, that's dope. And so um, I did a song where I put him in the hook. And in that song, I believe he must have been like maybe 2.5. And then at 3 years old, I put him on stage to do that song that he was on the hook on and stuff.
Crazy.
And so we're performing, and he comes in, man, and he's just like he knew he was supposed to be on stage. He
Yeah.
just, naturally gravitated to that. And ever
That's
since
nuts.
then, I would try to figure out how can I use him in the show because not only, I mean, yeah, it's if you want to call it gimmicky, he's a kid. Of course, it's going to be gimmicky, you
Yeah.
know. But one thing that I didn't want to do was have him wear the same thing I wore because I want to look like a group. We ain't doing that. Listen, you're gonna wear what you normally wear,
Yeah.
and if you say I want to wear this hat or that hat, cool. But we're just gonna keep it light. So I
Nice.
did the shows, and he got seasoned, man, so quick.
Beast.
That I see the fruits of that right now. But I've had friends, man, tell me, "Hey, Click, why you want to put your son on a song? It's not you're gonna make hip hop look soft." And those same people have him featured on their albums because he's just that dope.
Yeah.
It wasn't acceptable like right there and then when we were doing it. I mean, but that's when I realized that there's two crowds for hip hop, right?
Yeah.
There's there's the there's the other rappers crowd, and then
Yeah.
there's the people that they're not rappers. They want to hear music.
Yeah.
And with a lot of rappers, man, we tend to rap for the rappers.
Yeah.
And so I think that's cool if
That's a
that's what
great point.
you want to do. But
Yeah.
I've always tried to teach my son, man, be an artist for the people. Like, yeah, you may want KRS to go, oh, man, that was dope, right? But then if you have a song that can change a person's day or life,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like that's the power you actually have as an artist. So for me, you limit yourself when you try to impress more
Yeah.
famous or
Doing punchlines and
yeah, and it's
yeah.
cool. I mean, I like hearing them, and I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what they do. It's just why do I have to rap to get your approval
Yeah.
when I could rap in my neighbor and like, damn, that was a deep song. And so
Do
if you
my
listen to
thing.
the Square One album, especially, man, there's a song in there called "I Have," and "I Have" is a song about a father talking to his son about girls,
Uh,
but it's done in increments. So like the first verse, let's say that my son's 8, and then the second verse, I'm talking to him when he's like more in his 13-year-old age or whatever.
yeah.
So it elevates it and it just gives a perspective of a father teaching his son,
That's dope.
about this stuff. And but people don't do that because it's not hard or it's not I mean, like this
Yeah.
time for that stuff. But I've always tried to just be me.
Yeah.
and
You
do
certainly
comedy.
do that.
Now, I love rapping with my kids, man.
I think it's great.
You know?
And I just love at the end and your daughter's freestyling, talking about the sketchers she's gonna wear outside. And it was
Yeah,
just fun. I didn't get that impression at all about you trying to be gimmicky. I thought it was great, man. Just a dad wanting to be dad and celebrating his family. And
yeah.
I love it. And I love it much more so now that I understand the square one title and the meaning behind it. Super dope. But again, you got some awesome folks on it, and your son, obviously a beast in LA hip hop right now, killing it too. So that's super awesome, man. So classic in my book. And do you
Thank you,
still
man.
own copies of that album?
Do I?
Yeah,
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 yeah, man.
got you.
I got. You know what? What I started doing recently because I've. So my records at the time didn't sell well. Because if you listen to the content of what everyone else was doing, I wasn't doing what they were doing. Number one,
Interesting.
and number two, we were on a smaller label, so money wise, they can't give you that. Oh,
The
we're gonna invest
promotion, yeah,
50,000 in promotion, or it's just hopefully the word of mouth got out and it took off. Hopefully, that
yeah,
was for me. Um, but when the label finally shut down, they had like boxes of a certain amount of records that were left.
yeah.
And so he's like, man, if you want this stuff, come get it. So I snatched it all up.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
and there was a limited amount of vinyls he had. So I think there was maybe like 10 or 20 vinyls. But what I started doing, especially now that my son has been doing his thing,
Yeah.
we're working on creating a Super Latin legacy pack. So there's my
That's
music. So I've been trying to find my stuff at a reasonable price now before he even blows up, because at that point you're
yeah.
gonna have to pay a lot for that record. So I've been buying stuff back little by little. When I find them, I
Oh, okay.
buy them back, because there's gonna be a time you're gonna need them. So
Crazy.
yeah. So I got a good little library of that stuff, because at some point, believe me, it's gonna happen.
I love it, man. That's great to hear. All right, here's one for you from John. What is AMW and why is it on Discogs?
All right, so AMW, right? And this is where that was me and my DJ, the same
Okay.
DJ with my This Is How I Know album, but this is like our very first record that we ever put out through this small label called Triple X. And so AMW stood for America's Most Wanted.
Okay.
And the thing is that I was trying to say not America's Most Wanted like criminals. It was more like America wants to see us the most.
Yeah, most desired, right?
Yeah. But the manager we had at the time, he didn't really tell me anything about trademarking a name or whatever. So when that record came out, there was already a group called America's Most Wanted out, or that at least had the name trademarked or copyrighted.
Okay.
So all of our stuff had to come right back off the shelf.
Yeah.
Now I put the record on Discogs because I have the records.
Yeah.
And if you know the history and the lineage of my work, then you can, if you want to buy the AMW record, you can. It's available online. So it's definitely not shoot. I mean, if you could hear the growth from This Is How I Know to Square One, then you have to understand there's a decrease in the skill level on the AMW record. It was cool. It was
early.
Cool. It was just basic, regular. There was nothing really special about it.
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah, he's like, ask him about this. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I almost forgot about you. You just brought it up.
Hey, man, that's awesome. So, hey, man, you've been in the game for quite some time now. How are you enjoying the current hip hop scene? You like a lot of stuff that's coming out? So much stuff out there, but
you know what? So when I think about that, like I have to always pull back, because the first thing you go to when you go with the state of hip hop, right?
Okay.
You automatically start thinking of what you hear on the radio, and I if that was all I had to go off of, I don't like it. I don't like that it's become such a business that there's no difference. You know what I'm saying, with artists. No different sound, no different kind. It just seemed like everybody's doing. I realized at one point why I didn't like Drake. You know what I'm saying? Because at one point I'm like, man, I can't stand this dude's music. But then when I really analyzed it, I realized that not only is Drake, but there's 40 other Drakes on the radio too. So I'm getting bombarded by his sound, and it's not even really him; it's them. But they're imitating it so much, and that's what they think everybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
And so I never really gave him a shot. But So as far as current rappers and stuff, my son started a movement called Gemwork, and Gemwork is really a platform for the independent artists that we consider to be top notch or definitely gifted in his own thing. It's a platform that helps them because a lot of people don't understand social media or how to promote or how to do this,
Yeah.
and they're dope. I feel like I was one of them that
Yeah.
I feel like I could have went further than what I went, and I actually stopped my career. But the thing is, there was not the outlets that I felt like we needed. So with Gemwork, my son gets music submissions from all kinds of artists, man,
Oh, wow.
and he'll go, "Hey Pop, check this out. Hey Pop, check this out. Hey Pop, check this out." Right? And for a minute, a few years ago, we were throwing these backyard private parties,
Yeah.
and he would bring some of these artists, and I'm
Sick.
sitting going like, "Man, I never heard of you." And
Yeah.
this maybe 30 or 40 years old from Memphis, you
Yeah.
know, and it's
Oh,
got
that's
that
dope.
South vibe. But I'm going, no, like you're good at what you do, man. I'm glad my son did this because I would have never found this. So
Right.
so the current state, I think, that's not being showed is awesome.
Yeah.
We just got to figure out how to get them to the level to where everybody is able to at least see them.
Where to find them?
That's
Yeah.
what Gemwork is doing. Gemwork
That's
is
dope.
is doing these festivals, and so we're trying to get to the point to where we can tour it. It can't be strictly for the money. Of course, if it grows, the money will come. But I own all the gear. I own all the stuff to throw a show. So we're
That's
thinking about
amazing.
trying to figure out how do you maximize the visibility for these independent artists and show them, not only showcase them, but also give them a great platform to where they're standing on an actual professional stage, sounding
Yeah.
strictly professional. Like, this is what you've been wanting. Okay, what can you do with this now? Because right now you got selected because we think you got the gift, and if they see you got the gift, what are you gonna do? Do you have
Oh,
merch?
that's
Do you
dope.
merch? Do you practice on your shows? Because a lot of people, man, act like, oh, I want to be famous, and I'm like, listen, man, you think you want to be famous. Um, I'm not a fan of Cardi B at all, but I know what it takes to be famous. You know what I'm saying? So you have to work. You can't be that famous and not work.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
It's not, oh, I booked you for a show and show up at 1 o'clock and then get on stage. No, like when you get to a certain level of production, listen,
That grind.
there's rehearsals. You have to rehearse because the network ain't gonna let you go up there looking all stupid. They want to
Yeah.
at least get an idea of what you're gonna do, and if they need to change something, whether it be lighting, whether it's how your dancers are dancing, whether it's
Yeah.
like it's literally work. But
The
people
business
don't
side
see that
too.
part,
Yeah.
you know?
No, that's a great point. Wow, I love what your son is doing, and I love just your plans together as a father and son duo. Hey, man, and that actually was like led into my next question was like any advice for independent artists trying to carve out their own space in hip hop today. So I think you hit it on the head. Just
Yeah.
the business
I
aspect
think
and that
well, for
grind.
me, I would just say be yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Learn who you are because that's going to make you different.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, it's some people are born with that gift, man. Like you look
yeah,
at Luther Vandross, ain't no other Luther Vandross. That dude had something just mad special, you
yeah,
know, and nobody sounds like Luther, you
yeah.
know. So but if you want to make it in the business side where you're strictly concerned about the money, well, I guess I can't help you with that because that's not what I do. But I do appreciate when people are authentic.
Yeah, I like that. 100%. Hey, man, that's the same thing too, man. That talent is raw and you can see it. I saw it in the 1986 Hawthorne High School video. I was like, God, I'm telling you, man, I was blown. I was like, didn't think that you would be at that level, man, in 86. So super awesome.
That is so
But
funny.
hey, thank you so much, man. It was an honor to talk to the legend himself. I appreciate you sharing your
Thank you,
story
man.
and just being an open diary and just talking to me about the history of Click the Super Latin.
Thank
Like
you,
I
man.
said, man, you are my Rushmore of beatboxers too, as well. And just your contributions to hip hop, man, cannot be
thank,
matched.
thank you.
So,
Thank
with that, I love to just end the interview with just some fun questions,
you.
and then I'll turn over to you for some final words. But here's
Okay.
my first one for you. Who is the most surprising artist on your music playlist?
The most surprising artists that people would just go, damn, I never thought you'd listen to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
if I have to go like real deep, it'd probably be maybe Karen Carpenter
Oh,
or
okay.
Nancy Wilson. I mean, Nancy Wilson. If
Yeah,
you heard of
both
Nancy
good.
Wilson, man, that lady was badass.
Both good. All right. Hey, Click the Super Latin's favorite food. What's his go-to?
Ooh, man, I could eat hamburgers all day.
I love, I love it.
I don't, but I could.
Yeah, right. Good point. All right. Hey, if you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
Um, Man, superhero power. Let's see. Um, Man, I don't know. I would say that's hard to answer, man.
All right.
If I have to pick one, it would I'll probably use it in the wrong way though. But if I had to pick one, it would be like to know what people are thinking.
Hey, that's a good one, man. Okay, if Click the Super Latin was an animal, what animal would he be?
If I was an animal, what would I be? I would say some type of bird.
All right.
I couldn't tell you exactly what bird, but just when you look outside and see them, soaring, like it makes me wonder, like, what the hell are they seeing? They're thinking, it's crazy. Like to see that, that'd be
Yeah,
wild.
that view. I like that. And my last two questions for you. If you could have a meal with anyone, past or present, dead or alive, who would it be?
Past or present, who would it be if I could talk to anybody? Um, Anybody? Like, you don't have to be a celebrity then, right?
Oh, yeah. Anybody.
Man, it would probably be my grandmother on my dad's side. I never got to meet her. And I say this only because we're working on this documentary. It's not a Super Latin Legacy documentary. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but just knowing where she came from and where I'm at right now with my kids, like
Yeah.
the lineage part, like if she could see where her lineage would end up,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I have a lot of questions for her.
Oh, man.
I
That is
mean,
awesome. Yeah, I like that one. All right, here's your final question. Dodgers or Angels?
oh man, I'm not even a baseball fan, but based upon just history, I would say Dodgers, man.
All the way, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, man, that was great. Hey, thank you again for such an amazing interview. I look forward to sharing this. But with that,
Oh,
hey, thank you again for everything that you've done. Again, it's an honor to share your story. I want
thank
to
you,
turn
man.
the floor over to you. Any final words before we close this session out?
Live, man. Time is short. Live your life. The one thing that I'm doing right now at this moment is I'm actually working on another album. I never thought I'd work on another album, but
Sick.
the thing is, I was talking to a cousin. He asked how old I was. At the time, I was 51,
Yeah.
and he said in Spanish, he goes, "Ah, ya estás en el quinto piso," and that means you're on the fifth floor now. And so it just like I could talk about this all day. I'm 50. And so there's some good music coming out, man.
Oh,
One
man.
song is a joint called 230, and 230 pretty much represents the amount of time I would have if I got in a fight with somebody younger than me. Like 2 minutes. So it's a very comedic record, um, very creative record. I actually have volume 10 on a song as well. It's
Can't
it's
wait.
it's just about embracing your age, man. I can't
Yeah.
change anything. I can't go back to when I was 20. Why am I
Yeah.
acting all hard? Like, I'm on high blood pressure medication. You know what I'm saying? How can you be this? Oh, not you. And you're on blood pressure meds. You're on, whatever else you may be on. You go to bed at 6 because it feels like it's time to go to bed. Like, embrace your age, man. And the album's
I
called
love it.
Piso, the fifth floor. It's what it's like being in your 50s.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Well, thank you again, man. Let's
Yeah,
stay in
man.
touch and we'll get this out soon.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man.